Well, well, well. Thank you for the welcome back. I noticed Reb has not done any reentry videos in a while, so in almost probably over a month actually, so it may be possible that he has stopped playing reentry for the time being until there are bug fixes, or hopefully he didn't just give up, but that's a possibility. So yeah, I recommend that he does the Gemini Rendezvous, and I've been suggesting this for quite some time, but I think he's solely focused on learning Apollo in the background. So yeah, it does not look like he is been. Yeah, last play time in the past 2 weeks has been 0.6 hours, so roughly 45 minutes or so. Unfortunate, but he could also just be waiting for me to get to the Apollo portion so that he can learn, which is incredibly motivating for me. So we should get there. You should not be yawing left during transposition and docking. There is a different procedure which is much easier, and that is a simple just pitch 180 degrees, roll 90 degrees. Super simple, because if you yaw left, you run into gimbal lock, right? So just pitch up and then roll. Super easy. Super, super easy. Of course, NASP gives you an actual calculation, which you punch into the attitude, and then what you do is you initiate a pitch up at 2 degrees per second, and then you actually proceed on the computer to have the computer navigate, and then you go pitch from accel command to rate command, and that only momentary pitch up serves as a way of avoiding gimbal lock. So the computer will actually do the entire transposition, and then you take manual control and do the docking. So yeah, how is stream looking? I just noticed that I randomly got disconnected from the chat before reconnecting, so if you could please give me a message. When you pitch up, it yaws left by itself. That's normal. That's normal. And it shouldn't be doing it to the degree that reentry does, but it is normal. And it's normal because you have to factor in that the spacecraft is not evenly weighted on all sides. So there is a specific, like, if you haven't, you need to set auto RCS up correctly. And also you need to be on pitch and roll BMEGs attitude 1, rate 2, or sorry, yaw and roll on attitude 1, rate 2, yaw and roll manual attitude to rate command. Pitch is the one that goes to accel command. Pitch is the one that stays on rate 2, attitude deadband minimum, rate low. So that's how that should be working. But we'll get there. We'll get there. First, we need to finish Gemini. And, you know, all the training in the world for the mission is important, but it's not important when you don't even know how to re-enter. So otherwise you're fucking dead, right? So yeah. So yes, in order to start Apollo, we need to rendezvous. I don't know what it is with people skipping the rendezvous before they go to Apollo. Because otherwise they're not going to know shit. Like, they're going to have to do a rendezvous in Apollo. What is skipping the Agena rendezvous going to do for you? It's so much easier in the Gemini. And the only thing it's going to do is make you completely clueless on how to rendezvous the Lem. So, yeah. So yeah, as the description says, I will not tolerate rendezvousless, talentless hacks in my Astronaut Corp, because otherwise you're going to die when you try Apollo. So, everything needs to happen in sequential historical order, because that's just, like, they did things that were easy to hard. And so I don't know why people are going from easy to hard with skipping the medium difficulty. It makes no sense. It's all gradually getting harder and preparing you. So, make it make sense. No rendezvousless, talentless hacks in my Astronaut Corp. After today, there will be no excuses as to why no one has rendezvoused in Gemini. So let's get on with it. We're at internal power. So let's go ahead, get ourselves set up with our proper configuration here. Our fuel cells on. Get us going to full internal. Very good. Take our 256 circuit breaker off. Get these on. Max flow. Computer on. Yeah, if you can't re-enter in Gemini, and you can't rendezvous in Gemini, what makes you think that you can do that in Apollo? You have no right. So, that's where I'm coming from. Which is why, like, yeah, Rebel's learning Apollo, but I'm not going to sit here and just start with Apollo in my Astronaut Bootcamp. As much as it would help him, and it would probably make him play re-entry more, it's not the way that this is going to work. I have other people to look out for, so. There we go. We're set. Aside from that small rant on people not learning this very crucial step of the mission, how are you doing? It has been quite some time since we've been able to do this, and I've got, well, you know, I gotta get MS Paint loaded. We've got the whiteboard demonstrations to do, but first we're going to just do our ascent. I don't use the in-orbit scenario because I can't guarantee if it has been updated with the current version of the game. Like, something might be broken or buggy due to, like, the scenario not being updated. NASP has the same thing, which is why I only use the T-4 hour to launch scenarios, because they're the only ones that get updated as opposed to the rest of them. So Yeah, so this is why I always do the launch on every part. With Apollo, that's not going to be possible, though, so I will have to pray that save states work and that they don't break in between game updates, because, yeah, that's likely to happen. So, you know, when it's still an EA, so when the game updates, the save states might break because some critical element has changed a little bit from an update. Maybe like a system got improved or something. It's possible. So I hope I don't have to rely on save states too often. So yeah, that's kind of the vibe. Just skip and get us on our way. We got an important mission ahead of us. We have to beat the Soviets. So, without further ado,
9, 8, 7, 6, 5,
let's
4,
lift
3, 2,
off.
1. Ignition. Lift off. Roger, clock, jump in.
Hello, James Farley.
Yes, that's right. We got a roll program. Roger, roll. Good lift off, 8. Second gate. Roll is in. We have a pitch program. Roger, pitch program.
Are you going to rescue the Soviet rocket? No, no, no. We're going to beat the Soviets. Why would we rescue a Soviet rocket? No, terrible idea. So, as many well-renowned historians have said, the Soviets launched 2 Vostok rockets and got them within visual range of each other and radio range of each other. However, they did not complete a rendezvous, as the Vostok, of course, was not capable of performing such a feat. The modified Vostok, the Voskad, had to perform that rendezvous feat. So, the Soviets beat us to getting within visual and communications range. However, they were not so close together that they were able to literally see each other. They had to use, you know, beacons and blinky lights. So, yeah, we're gonna beat the Soviets by actually station keeping with a target and docking with it. So, haha, fuck you, Soviets. So that's the plan, anyways. Hello, you cube. Yeah, good. Only kidding. Fantastic. That's good. I do have a Vostok rocket, by the way, on NASP, if anyone's curious what the Vostok looks like. Genuinely, many historians have called it the space office. And it genuinely does look like the space office. Like, it looks very comfy inside, and it's got a music radio and everything, so... Space office. Staging.
Roger, staging.
Are studying right now. studies are important. If you have homework, you should do that instead of watching this. This stream VOD will always be here. So even people that are not in the stream, right? They still have no excuse not to be able to pull this off because the VOD is still here. But yes, if you have like university work to do, go do that. Don't be on the stream. Like if you've got homework, if you got university work, get off of the stream. Alright. Like I'm one to talk, I play NASP while doing homework, but in all fairness to NASP, there is so much time in between some of these procedures that honestly you could just do a quick little P52 and then you've got another hour to kill before you have to do the next thing. So actually it's kind of made me more productive, little ADHD like, can't be doing just homework, have to be doing 50 things at once in order to hit that max productivity. So NASP is good in that regard. Oh, a mess to orbit capability. Again, they still did. It's so fucking bright. I don't know what it is. It's so bright. The geometry is so bad. I don't know what is causing it, but I'm gonna have to tweak around with the settings. I just don't know what's causing it. It's weird. Earth should never be this bright.
Roger, Seco.
All right. Jetson fairing, separate spacecraft. Let's zero out the IVIs. Oh, am I in university? Yes. Yes, I am. That is why I have not been able to keep up with constant uploads. Safe. Yep. Shut off. Good. Oh, we got these two. Good. Good. Antenna select adapter. Off. Record. Off. Batteries on. AC power on inertial. Guidance. Yep. Right O2 closed. Voltmeter on battery C. Ohms control power. It's off. Radiators on bypass. We can take max flow down to normal flow. And looking good. Let's just verify, since I went through that a little bit quick. Alright, awesome. What is your FAC? I have no idea what you're trying to say. FAC. Yeah, no idea. Faculty? I mean, there's lots of faculty on campus. Many of them. I should make physical checklists, yeah. That would be a good idea. Alright, computer is started, which means that we can start with, hold on a second. It's time to bust out, you guys already know, MS Paint. I have the entire flight plan printed out for Apollo 11. Yeah, it took so much paper. A ridiculous amount of paper. I think this person's trying to ask where I go to university, and like, in what world would I ever tell people that? That is a ridiculous question. Have you ever used the AMU? The AMU, the little squirt gun for EVAs? Yeah, we can use that in here. All right, let's pull up that MS Paint, shall we? Here it is, folks. I just don't understand JSON files that Rancher uses to convert into regular text. JSON files are right, so they're an information retrieval format. So you can format a piece of a database by essentially making a dictionary for something. Like you could say, here is a key, and this is all the information about it. And so JSON will have like, what in particular is it actually called? It's called a... Christ, I'm gonna have to pull it up, actually. Because I don't remember what the actual technique is called. So let's figure that out real quick. Oh, the whole backpack? Yeah, I can show you where that is. Not the, like, backpack you would use in, like, the ISS, but there's a backpack containing fuel. Yeah. Third semester... Nope, I'm looking for... Looking for something else. I guess it's not on here. Anyways, it's like, what is my favorite Apollo mission crew? You know, to be honest, I have no idea. There is a website of knowledge organization systems. Ontology, thank you. Oh my god. Yes. Okay. So, yeah, it's like an abstracting and indexing system for different ontologies to make information schemas. So, like, if you go to schema.org and then you type in something like car, you can click on that and it gives you a bunch of properties and a bunch of values. And this is what JSON files are supposed to be used for. So, yes, all the checklists should be in JSON. That is technically the correct way of doing information retrieval. A long tangent, but yeah. Super long tangent, but this is the correct way. Doing it with Excel, it is absolutely not the correct way to do an information retrieval system for many, many reasons, but it has to be just because how Orbiter functions. So, yeah. But yeah, it's, JSON is proper. You can go to schema.org, type something in like car or spacecraft, and you can see actually exactly how this works. And if you go to W3 Schools, you can learn about how to format JSON file formats. So, pretty cool. Anyways, to MS Paint, like I said we were going to do 5 minutes ago. I got off on a tangent because it really bothered me that I wasn't remembering something from my degree. Let's make a circle, and let's call this circle Earth. We have Earth. All right, so here's Earth, and now there are very few, or very, there are very specific criteria for performing a rendezvous. So the first is orbital inclination. And inclination changes are incredibly expensive, right? So if you're sat in orbit, if you're orbiting around, you know, you've got yourself a nice orbit, and you've got your ascending node and your descending node, you would make your inclination change either here or here. And you would point yourself perpendicular to the orbit so that you can raise the highest point and lower the lowest point. Lots of people have seen this in KSP, but what people don't know is that these maneuvers are incredibly expensive. You shrink your periapsis and grow your apoapsis while it's tilting before those stabilize back out to where they originally are. And so in order to make an inclination change, you actually need to do it from a super wide and humongous orbit that goes off-stream or off-screen, and then perform it from like the very edge of that where you have your highest velocity, burn perpendicular, and then that will rotate to your whole orbit's inclination. However, in Gemini, this is solved by following a very, very simple and easy thing to understand, honestly. Before the Gemini can launch, first the, let me see, where's my color swatches? Yep. First, the Atlas must launch. So the Atlas target vehicle takes off at a certain inclination, and it inserts into orbit. And right after that has taken off, you know, a certain amount of time later, so that the Atlas target vehicle is yet again directly over the launch site, the Gemini will take off at the same time. And it will insert into the exact same inclination. And the reason is because if the Atlas takes off at 42 degrees of azimuth, then the Titan will take off at 42 degrees of azimuth. Then you need to do a very, very tiny, like less than 1 degree inclination change, because the only difference in inclination will come from the fact that one has launched on one pad and 5 kilometers away, another one has launched on another pad. So that is the only discrepancy that would be generated by this takeoff method. And if you take off this close with the Agena on top of the launch pad, it will continue to travel in the direction of, you know, the orbit while the Titan takes off, and it will insert maybe, you know, here's the ending point of the Agena, it will insert maybe like right here. So there's a super small amount of space in between here and here. And that is the entire rendezvous. So once you're in orbit, actually, the Gemini should be inserted into a much, much lower orbit than the Agena. And why? Because the lower to the ground you are in orbit, the higher your ground speed is. If you're so far up above the Earth, your ground speed will eventually be null. It will look like you are not moving relative to the ground. That's called a geostationary orbit. The closer you are, though, the faster you're going to move. Imagine you have a funnel and you drop a marble in the funnel. it takes a long time to go around the funnel. But as it gets to the epicenter of the funnel, it's spinning around like crazy. It's moving the same speed. Well, actually, it's not. It's actually slowing down relative to itself and everything else in orbit, but relative to the ground, it's speeding up. So what you can do is you can insert your Gemini spacecraft into a low orbit, and you will actually orbit this Earth faster than the Agena. So you insert into here, right? And then you completely circularize your orbit. Now the Agena is going to be moving, but it's going to be moving slower. So let's say the Agena is over here. This gives you time to, as you orbit around and around and around, you get maybe this close, maybe this close, maybe this close. Eventually, if you don't do anything, you'll pass it, which is bad, right? So that's the first step. We have to circularize our orbit so that our rate of change is constant, and that constant rate of change in our velocity is less than the Agena. So that is more relative to the ground than the Agena, so that we can catch up to it. Less than the Agena in the fact that we're traveling slower, so we're in a lower orbit. So pretty simple. Yes, exactly, like a phonograph record. Good job. So that's pretty simple. That's stage 1. Now let's execute stage 1. Our program is loaded. So let us get sharp and forward here. And let's get a circularization. That's our periapsis.
Roger, DCS.
So this circularization is slated to occur at 1 hour, 11 minutes, 19.31 seconds. So we can verify all this information. First, we'll acknowledge a DCS receive. Then we verify 01 should read 111. Good. Core 02 readout should read 01931. Very good. Now for your X, Y, and Z, that's 25, 26, and 27 respectively. You see, this is not 90,833 feet per second addition. This is actually a negative because the Gemini computer doesn't have a parity bit, so the parity must be represented with a 9 or a 0 in the first place. So negative 833 is what that reads. Core 26 should read 0. Very good. And core 27 should read negative 1. Very good. With that information verified, our burn time, our attitude, none of that is important. It doesn't matter anymore. Because the computer has factored in all of that for us. So now we're going to do the circularization burn. Our time until the burn starts is core 84. So in order to do that, we start the computer, and now we can see our inertial velocity indicators, our incremental velocity indicators are now going to start becoming live. And now we do core 84 for our readout. And core 84 is read in minutes, 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 seconds, seconds. So 50 minutes and 13 seconds. So we can actually set ourselves, we can stop, and we can decrement all the way back to, let's take us up to like 48 minutes. Actually, Yeah, 48 is probably a safe bet. 48 minutes. And then decrease by 10. And 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, 0. Good. Count down. And now we just do our readouts here. We could see 49:23. So maybe instead of 48 seconds, let's do 48. Excuse me, 48, 40, 10, 20, 30, 40. There we go. 49:02, 8, 7, 6, 55, 54, 53, 52, 51, 50, 49, 48, 47, 46, 45, 44, 43, 42, 41, 40, 39, 38, 37, 36. We can decrement this by 1 because I set it up like I would NASP, which is to wait an additional second, but that should be good. Now we'll just make sure that these are all good. 2, 1, 0, 19, 17, 16. Yep, so hold on. Just another second here. Click, there we go. Four, 3, 2, 1, 0. And that's perfectly synced. Now we don't need the computer's readouts anymore, and we're good. Chinese animation of the moon landing in 2025. No, I don't follow the Chinese space program very much. All right. So now let's just get to our last post-insertion item, which is getting ourselves that radiator readout. And we're good. So, hello. All right. Any questions on anything so far? Not, I think we'll just truck right along to our parking orbit for waiting to catch up with the Agena. What are those straps that hang behind the Gemini? That's just a result of the improper staging between the Titan and the Gemini spacecraft. There was one squib that failed to fire off, which is mounted the center of this metal rod. So those are not actually straps, that's the data umbilical between the Titan and the Gemini that just fails to separate properly. Okay. You can see as we get closer to our burn, all of our inclination velocity, or up and down, turns into forward backward, which is exactly what we're looking for. 10, 9, 8, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, and hold the N key and thrust aft. As you can see, we are indeed thrusting aft. Very good. And now we can keep the other two 0 by just doing a little bit of pitch action while we burn. And there we go. That completes the burn. Now at this point, we can reset the computer and get our next burn calculation going. So what will our next burn look like? Anyone got a clue? Let's get our cabin CO2, or our suit CO2 loop situated. And let's just send up for a rendezvous burn.
Roger, DCS.
Which is occurring at 12 hours and 24 minutes, 37.42 seconds. So let's keep that up. And let's just, oh, we've got so much time, let's just leave it running. And let's go back into our MS Paint. What is the cabin pressure at this point? So the cabin pressure of all oxygen spacecraft is held at 5 psi. Let's get our MS Paint pulled up. Again, I don't know what it is, but it's like my mobile app does not update the chat, which is interesting. It's the one thing that drives me nuts because now I need to keep alt-tabbing. There we go. All right, so let's really exaggerate these orbits here. Here is our Agena orbit. Let's just super exaggerate. And then here is our Gemini orbit. Again, we will super exaggerate. So that's us right now. And what the ground has done is they've calculated it so that the spacecraft will be in their respective orbits at certain positions. So as you know, we're catching up to the Gemini, or sorry, to the Agena pretty quickly. let's just say the Agena is positioned right here. And yeah, we're catching up now. We're catching up super quickly. So now at this point, now that we've positioned ourselves in a good manner, now we need to start our burn at some point. And again, this is all going to be over-exaggerated to show. But actually, it would be more like probably around here. So now, what is the next step? We need to burn to get our apoapsis to reach the same altitude that the Agena orbit is in. Yes, but there's a little bit more to the story, because you can't just like burn at any time and expect to meet up, right? This needs to happen at a specific spot. An extremely specific spot. So let me just demonstrate. I need to grab myself a reminder image here. Here we go. This is what I'm looking at. Right, so how this works is, let's say we initiate our burn here. We need to add in, let's actually make this green so it's easy to see. We need to add in velocity, right? Going prograde. And what this should do is we'll take our current velocity at this point, v1, we'll add some delta v, and what we get is what is called a transfer orbit. So now, instead of being this perfect circle, we'll come out and then we'll expand the orbit to look more like that by burning prograde. Something like that. A little bit more circular than that, but yeah. And this addition, which is our now VA, this is called our transfer orbit. So if you recall that when we're lower, we're faster. So the Agena is racing towards this specific rendezvous point right here. And we're also racing towards it. But we start our burn behind the Agena. Well, if we launched when the Agena was right on top of us, why do we need to start this burn from behind? Because remember, the lower orbit means we're faster. So we're going to keep catching up, and we're going to keep accelerating towards the Agena right up until here. And this is the exact point that our speeds will be close to matching. At that point, we'll be close to matching. And the distance between these two spacecraft, this distance here, needs to be exactly mapped out, because as we approach, when we get higher and higher and higher into our orbit, we're going to be approaching the Agena slower and slower and slower and slower. So the distance between these two spacecraft must be factored. The position in their orbits must be factored. The radius of the orbiting body must be factored. naturally, since that defines our orbits. And of course, the point to your rendezvous is represented by this radius. So actually, let's draw the radius here. The point in our orbit is represented by said radius to the rendezvous point, and that we just know as lambda m. And that is our degrees here. There you go. So we need to burn prograde, add velocity, meet the orbits, but it must be done at a certain distance between the two spacecraft, at a certain position in our orbit, so that as this spacecraft is approaching faster but slowing down, we meet at the same time, at the same velocity. That's the goal. So we must be before the Agena, not after. Does that make sense? Hope that makes sense. Makes sense to me, anyways. But let me know if that doesn't make sense. I can also represent it with our orbit display, actually, here. Here's the Agena. Here's us. And you can see we're super far apart. Orbits are going this way. We're behind the Agena, which is, you know, correct. And you can see as we are orbiting, look at that, we're getting closer to the Agena as we orbit. The only reason we need to wait this long is naturally both the Agena and us are in extremely low orbits, so there is not much differential ground speed going on here, but there is some nevertheless. So let's just verify all that information. 01 readouts, 1224, good. 02 readouts, 3742, good. 25 readouts, 1518, good. 26 is -0 or +0. These computers are in 1's complement, not 2's complement, so -0 is indeed a valid number that you can get off of all of the spacecraft computers up until, like, the space shuttle. So we are going to leave this up because I could not be asked to set the event timer for something that is occurring this frickin' far away. So yeah, I couldn't be asked. Uh, 12 hours, 12, 11, that's 10 hours from now, so 12, 1, 2, 3, 4, roughly 5:20 p.m. UTC is what we're looking at. So let's just watch these orbits as we drift around, eh? Just watch as they get closer and closer and closer. Let's just double check what we've got going on here. 6 more hours. 4:53. See that? Look at this. This is getting very, very close now. So our theory is correct. Our distance is approaching. Let's cover the rest of the time. I did not mean to hack that message, actually. 12:24. Let's get us to like 12 hours. And let's take a look at where we're positioned. "12 hours. Let's take a look. Look at that. Super close. But again, we're not going to exactly match. We're not going to be on top of each other. We're going to be just a little behind. Maybe like right here. We're all geared up and prepared. Let's start our program. We're exactly where we need to be. 12:24:37. So let's get to like 12:24, and let's just take a look at what we're at. Look at that. See? Just a kiss behind. As expected. Two, one, ignition. Now again, we can correct our up, down, left, and right just by changing our attitude as we burn forward. And you can see, lovely, lovely engine fire going on here. Oh, look at that. We need to do just a little pitch up. Little bit pitch up. And cut off. Now let's take a look at our orbits. Uh-huh. Bink. There we go. And that is our rendezvous point. See that? I really wish that this was dramatized a little bit, so that you can actually see this by looking straight down. That would be very, very helpful. But as you can see, now as we approach, we will be increasingly getting towards it, but we'll be increasingly getting towards it at a slower and slower and slower and slower rate, until we are no longer getting closer or further at the apoapsis. Any questions so far? How do I always come in line with the Agena? You're always above it. Right. So I'll teach you how to do that. It is detailed in my old rendezvous video, but I probably didn't explain it too well. First of all, inclination really, really matters. So if you take a look at your map, we can see our inclinations are both 28.06 or 28.906 degrees. And part of making your inclination really, really exact is burning as fast as you can. So you burn and you correct these with your attitude as opposed to impulsively, because you can end up changing your inclination that way by simply taking a very long time. Part of it is also making your apoapsis just a little kiss below the Agena target vehicle, so that when you're on doing your apoapsis circularization, you can actually get the apoapsis to come up just a kiss during that burn, and that also really helps. But the most important tool is genuinely the needles on the radar readout. So we'll cover that. But yeah, and now we're going to have them send up our circularization and our apoapsis.
Roger, DCS.
So, back to MS Paint. Here we go. So we are now at this type of orbits. Ugh, I could do better than that. Actually, wait. Can I draw a perfect ellipse with this if I do that? And I can sort of stretch it out. Yes, look at that. It's beautiful. All right. And then we can do that. Get a little bit of that action, and then just whoop. Ah, perfect. I mean, it's not exactly 100% perfect because these would need to stretch out just a bit, and that is perfect. This is now the type of orbit we are in, and this is called a transfer orbit. My artistic ability, jeez, I should have gone to frickin' art school with this talent. Damn. Joking, of course. So yeah, now we're in this type of orbit, and we already talked about what happens in this orbit, because classic me, I tend to explain too much. So we've already talked about what's going to happen, and we're going to essentially meet each other right here. So now the will be maybe like right here, and when we circularize, and you know, the Agena might be like right here. So there's a super, super small distance between us now. And now, as you know, we need to do another burn prograde, adding our velocities here. So here is V2. V2 occurs at our specific point right here. And this arrow, which represents our burn direction, that's going to be our delta V2, represented by the arrow. And our final orbit, V2. So now, our V2 should be exactly equal to Agena's V1. And that's what we have done. Once we're in the same orbit, we'll talk about what we should do then. But that's pretty much, it's like the same thing as the periapsis circularization, except up here. So now we're going to be expanding out this green circle to precisely match, you know, the red circle. And I'm not going to draw it like perfectly overlapped, otherwise that would look weird and you'd never be able to see it, but that's the point. Our V2 should equal Agena's V1. We'll put away the old MS Paint. YouTube did me justice with this recommendation. Thank you. Thank you. Much appreciated. Much, much appreciated. So again, we'll verify, acknowledging our DCS uplink. Verify our hours, minutes, and our seconds here. Verify our delta X, 1495, delta Y, 0, and delta Z, 0. Very good. We can start our computer, arm our orbital attitude maneuvering system, and time skip to the desired time. And I'm going to do this a little bit slow so that you can see exactly what happens in our transfer orbit. Take a look. See that? We are approaching it now, but as we get higher and higher and higher, we approach it at a slower speed. Now we're going to come ahead of the Agena. This is different than what was expected, but don't worry because the same thing applies. The same final steps apply. It does not make any difference. So you can see, look at that. But yes, our closing distance has slowed down. And look at that. This is pretty much going to be our final separation distance. Super, super close together. Yeah? So we'll time skip to our burn. All right. 3, 2, 1, ignition. And again, as we're burning, we should correct our left and right with attitude and our up and down with attitude. This drastically decreases burn time and makes our insertions much, much more accurate. We can also turn on our radar now. Of which we got some interesting ratty data as soon as we turned that on. So we'll finish off the burn using our map. Yeah, you can see a very interesting thing has happened. So we'll take us forward and we'll actually burn back up. And back. So that's, you know, it's pretty good. It's pretty close. Now we'll turn on our radar. And these last steps. Look at how close we are. A beautiful, beautiful insertion. Get that computer off. Let's load our rendezvous tape. And now let's do radar attitude. And this will allow us to acquire the Agena, which, yeah, we can see it. It's right there. So we point towards it, and we thrust towards it. But you have to keep in mind that this is going to change our orbit slightly. So in order to counteract this change, at the same time, we're also going to need to translate in the direction of our little yellow needles here. And that prevents any sort of, that's basically prevents any sort of inclination change, any sort of orbit change, which happens as a result of our thrusting towards the Agena, because as you know, we're still affecting the opposite side of our orbit. So if that opposite side is changed, as we drift towards the Agena and we approach that opposite side of our orbit, our speed changes. And that's really what we are looking to not do so drastically. It is required slightly, obviously, otherwise we would never close with the object, but we don't want to do it drastically. So just keep that in mind. And centering these yellow needles while approaching is exactly what keeps you in line with the Agena. We can see as we thrust it down, we started going down. So we must keep in line. Luckily for us, our rendezvous occurred on the day side. But you can see we are pointed directly at the engine. So a little bit of an interesting rendezvous this time. You know, normally I rendezvous at the front of the Agena, but it's not that big of a deal because we will just drift around the Agena. So let's slow down. And then, yep, we are drifting up, but that's completely okay. We'll allow it. We don't want to hit that antenna there, so we'll give a couple puffs aft. Very nice. Now we'll want to slow down a bit, so let's give a couple puffs down as we're drifting, and roll. And then a couple puffs forward. And a couple more puffs down. As you can see, station keeping tends to be a pretty good breeze. It's not very difficult at all. Once you're rendezvoused in space, things just, I don't know, they just click. Much easier than an airplane. So yeah, that was the whole thing. How to stay in line with the Agena instead of being above or below it. Just make sure that you center out those yellow needles. Super easy. Let's extend our docking index, prepare for dock, bus arm to dock. Got all that set up. Very good. Let's go back to rate command. And let's get it. Computer is not even close to being loaded. We had such a good rendezvous burn that we inserted like pretty much the closest I've ever actually inserted. So we're going to do this entirely by eye here. But now, once you've approached, super easy time docking. If you find that you can't see the Agena, there are a couple commands that you can do. So let me just get steady here while I demonstrate. There we go. So if you take a look at your Agena commands, you've got your acquisition lights. You have to turn your encoder on, and they're going to be on 25, and then you send a 1. That'll make a flashing red light, which you can use to track the Agena if you're rendezvousing at night. The approach lights, 141, these will light up that docking port. And then you're also usually just going to want to stick status display to 201, which is bright, so that you can see if the dock light on the Agena is on, which lets you know that it is rigidized and ready for docking. Sorry, de-rigidized and ready for docking. So yeah, any questions with that so far? I know that happened kind of fast because we did such a efficient orbital insertion. So I hope that was a good enough demonstration. Basically, just keep the yellow needle center, and then keep your closing speed needle before your distance needle, so that you don't smack into it, you know? When you get close, slow down. You want to approach this thing pretty slow, about half a foot per second. And you're docked. Now you can see, just verify by using your jets that your data is linked, and you're good. You can cycle rigid stop valve, rigidize, and stop rigidizing and off. Rigid light is on. And that's how to rendezvous. Congratulations, we no longer have rendezvousless, talentless hacks in the Astronaut Corp. Any questions from anyone? Madison, I know that you're the one that asked that. Did that answer your question about how to come in line with the Agena? I know we had a little bit of a fuzzy rendezvous or circularization there due to switching on the radar during the burn. I didn't know made the incremental velocity indicator readout go haywire. But other than that, it should solve everything. Any questions? If not, I'm going to make a note of our current stream elapsed time, which is 1:26:50. One hour, 26 minutes, and 50 seconds, and we will call that the rendezvous portion. And then up through the burn, I'll also make a chapter for liftoff, and so this will be the rendezvous training. End. Then I'll have one for launch end, and then, you know, EVA for the rest. So, who wants to see an EVA on this stream, or should I make a new stream to keep it digestible here? Give us EVA this stream. Yes or no? Alright, we got one vote no. No. Okay, so make a new stream with an EVA. Yeah, what I'm getting is that everyone's sort of like probably in that dinner mood right now, is what I'm suspecting. So yeah, everyone's probably in that dinner mood. That's what I'm feeling. Madison seems like they're probably going to get dinner because they're not responding. Madison, com check. And you know what? I don't blame you. I'm also in the dinner mood. So I think we'll say let's end it, and then we'll do next stream, which maybe tonight, because I really want to start getting into Apollo. I'll say we can go for, like, I'll end the stream, get some food, we can all eat, digest what we've learned, and then you can ask any questions you have in the comments. And then we'll come back, we'll learn how to do an EVA, we'll learn how to control ourselves in that EVA, and then, so then the question is, should I pair the EVA with re-entry tutorials? Because the EVA tutorial is going to be like literally a minute. So should I pair EVA training with entry training? Yes or no? EVA training is literally going to be like 10 minutes tops. Tops we're talking about. So I'm sensing everyone's hungry. So we'll end the stream. And we'll do the EVA next stream, but the question is then, on that next stream, should we do EVA training with re-entry training? Yes. Okay. Fantastic. All right. Thank you for your votes. So if that's the case, I'll rename this video. I'll remove EVA from the title, obviously. Otherwise, that's false advertising. And then I'll put it in with our entry tutorial. Yeah, I don't know. Do you guys want a tutorial on how to use the Agena PPS, primary propulsion system? I covered it before, but you know, it's an older video probably. So, yes, PPS burn, or just no, you just want to get into Apollo, and you don't care because you can read the checklist and punch in the commands yourself. So yes, PPS burn, training, PPS burn training with EVA and re-entry tutorial. Well, training. We'll call it training. Or no, just get on with Apollo. We want to go to the moon. Fuck the PPS burn, because it's literally detailed step by step in the checklist. Right here. Perform a PPS burn. And I promise this is the last question. And then we'll go get dinner. So yes is to put it in the same stream. No is to skip the PPS burn training because you want to get to Apollo and it's not that important. Right. I'm reading that people are kind of neutral on this. They don't really care either way. So, yeah, I'll probably then just skip the PPS burn then. Since no one really cares either way. Since it would kind of muddy up the entry tutorial, or entry training. So, awesome. Then with that, we'll end for the time being. We'll grab some dinner, and then I'll create like a community vote poll if you guys want another stream tonight, or push it to a different day. So, thank you for joining. Adios.